If there's one division in college football where you may be able to go 0-2 and still win the division, not because it's not a good division, but because it's so even across the board, minus maybe Colorado, it would be the Pac-12 South Division. But I don't necessarily think either UCLA or Arizona wants to push their luck. So this is a big matchup at the Rose Bowl with the Bruins taking on the Wildcats. Mark Rogers TV talking Pac-12 football with Shereen Rayan from Zona Zealots and also Mike Regalado from Go Joe Bruins. So two of my favorite contributors here on at the same time. This is awesome. Shereen, we'll start with you and those Cats. We texted back and forth a few times on Saturday night because I got to admit I didn't give you a whole lot of a chance.
Not at all.
Husky, but they were right there, those Cats.
Oh, my gosh. A 79-yard touchdown made history. Brandon Dawkins ran for 79 yards. He was helped by Trey Griffey with this key block right at the maybe 3 yards before the goal line. Without that, it wouldn't have been a touchdown. But Brandon was everywhere. I mean, that was supposedly the best defense and one of the best defenses in the country. And Arizona had them on the ropes almost all the way to the end. I mean, we went to overtime and just couldn't pull it out in overtime.
Mike, does it get any worse in regards to excruciating losses? You've had to suffer this twice this season. In regards to UCLA taking on Texas A&M, you're on the road facing what's turned out to be a really good Texas A&M team, so no shame in that loss, but you take them to overtime after a big fourth-quarter comeback, and then you hold Stanford to no touchdowns the entire game until 16 seconds left, and you lose at the Rose Bowl against what's supposed to be the best team in the Pac-12. That could have been a huge win. Man, it's been rough.
Yeah, it seems the UCLA fans have been a little bit torn. They're picking sides of let's not give up hope. It's only 4 games, and those are like fire Mora.
It's way too right now.
It's way too early to decide any of that. But yeah, I mean, you can look at it as UCLA's 2-2. They could have easily been 4-0, but they lose to Texas A&M. They lose to Texas A&M and Stanford, who are both ranked in the top 10. That is. And they could have easily won both of them. That is not a bad thing. The thing about the Stanford game is how much it stung. This is the first time UCLA took control of the entire game. 80% of the game, 85% of the game. This is the first time UCLA was up on Stanford. First time they showed dominance. And then they go a little bit conservative at the end. And Stanford does what Stanford does best, is game plan in the moment. David Shaw, that last drive, I think, lasted 5.5 minutes, something like that. And, that's all he needed. He basically only needs 5.5 minutes of an entire game to snatch it away from someone else, because Stanford went on that final drive and they got that fantastic touchdown. They go up. UCLA has one final chance with something like 30 seconds left. Rosen gets sacked. They pick up the ball and run it back for a touchdown. So not only was it a knife in the chest, it was twisted at the same time. So it was just rough how it ended. But for the most part, I want to focus on what they actually did. The defense stood up to Stanford. They didn't completely stop McCaffrey, although he didn't go off for crazy amount of yards. He didn't have a touchdown, not a big touchdown score, but he's huge on yards. And they limited the passing game. You got to look at the positives. That's what I'm going to do, because if we're just going to wallow in, they're 2-2, it's going to be a long season. So there were some good things that went on. The run defense looks to be improving. The offense still stuttered a bit, but I like where it's going. They're trying to establish a power game, and I can slowly see it start to kind of click, but it's going to take some time. It's a new offense. It's a complicated offense compared to last year. And, it's only 4 games. We'll be fine.
Yeah, if you didn't see the UCLA-Stanford game, you saw the score. Stanford did not legitimately beat UCLA by 9 points. So UCLA led it by 4 late, and then Stanford scores with 16 seconds left, and UCLA has – for a split second, Mike, your heart must have been racing and jumping when you saw Walker coming down the seam, and the ball was about 3 inches from his hands, and the safety came over and broke it up at about the 10-yard line. Yeah. UCLA might have been in good shape to kick a field goal and send the game into overtime at that point. But next play, Rosen fumbles. It really doesn't matter, but Stanford takes it back to make a lot of people in Vegas either really happy or really pissed off. Because that turned the spread around. Shereen, we'll talk to you about some Arizona Wildcats. In regards to, we talked about the Huskies game. Before that, we talked pretty much every week about the Wildcats play, and this being kind of a different Arizona team where you're usually scoring as much as anybody in the Pac-12 but giving up a lot of points, but the defense is kind of overachieved. The offense took some time to get into the flow, but this week against Washington showed some flashes, and you gotta take quite a bit of optimism from this performance against Washington into this week.
Brandon Dawkins is ranked number 3rd in the Pac-12 according to ESPN as far as his performance, and so our offense is gelling because we've had the same quarterback for several games, and I'm quite sure he's going to start in the next game against UCLA. We did suffer. We lost a true freshman running back, J.J. Taylor, out of Centennial High School, which was a huge blow to our program. So we are converting wide receivers to running backs. So Rich Rod said this week that, and I know one of them is Samaji Grant. He's a senior, so he has a lot of experience, and he used to be running back in high school. So Samaji's probably going to be running the ball along with Brendan Leon, who's a walk-on, as well as Zach Green and Tyrell Johnson, who was a wide receiver. So, every week we have a different lineup, a different person who steps up. The defense has held most of the teams. Most of the teams around 20 to 30. Nothing's been a blowout. So, I know we're not favored in this game coming up against UCLA, but I don't know. This could be the 5th time's the charm. They've lost 4 times to the Bruins, and at least twice the Bruins have taken out our quarterback.
Well, they better not do that to you again. You're running out of quarterbacks, and you're running out of running backs. So Tyrell Johnson, he got about 5 attempts last week. So you're letting me know that Nick Wilson can't come back. He won't be back this week. And J.J. Taylor's done for the season, right?
Well, Nick Wilson is questionable, but you never know what that means. I'm sure that if things get really bad and he really is questionable, he may play. But knowing Rodriguez, he's going to hold him out till he's healthy, and he'll play everybody else. Plus, you've got Brandon Dawkins, who is either the number 1 or number 2 running back on the team. The quarterback runs sometimes more than
he's the top running back with 411 yards. Awesome.
And he jumps. Did you see? He jumps really high. And, this week, Rich Rod was very funny. He was talking about Brandon's confidence, and they were saying, is Brandon confident? And Rich said, that's not a problem with Brandon. He's never not confident. He's always confident, and that's a really good thing.
Mike, what's making you feel good about this UCLA team despite 2 losses, 2 excruciating losses? You're playing with 2 of the best teams in the country through the first 4 weeks. That makes you feel that this can still be a really good team that can win a division championship.
On defense, it's the run, how the run defense is improving from last year. We didn't see it a lot in Texas A&M or UNLV, but they shut down BYU for, I think it was 23 total yards. They got to Taysom Hill for a career low -7 yards. And then this past week against Stanford, Stanford still got their yards. That's what Stanford does. They grind you down, and then they attack late in the game. But they're methodical, and UCLA matched up well. What I like to see is the fact that they weren't just in the nickel all the time. With a team like Stanford, they actually positioned themselves well. They stacked the box, 7-8 guys, maybe 5-6 guys on the line at different parts of the game. So that's what I liked. I see an evolution with that, and they prevented a touchdown, which was they didn't even have a rushing touchdown that entire game. So there's progress there. On the offensive side, I like this. Okay, let me start over. Receivers still don't have a go-to guy. Guys are dropping balls, really crucial times. I think there's been at least 2 or 3 crucial drops in each of the games that the Bruins have played. So they have to find a guy who's consistent. They have to have the guy who's not going to, think about, overthink a catch. Just catch the ball and get those yards. The running game has not been as good as it should be. UCLA has 3 really good running backs. It just seems that, well, first off, 2 of them didn't play in a few games, so that mixed up the rotation itself. But when they were actually in, it seemed that the running backs were used they weren't used for the situations that they're built for. Like, for example, Soso Jamabo, he's more of a speedster. He's elusive. He can, juke guys left and right. There should be no reason that he's running right up the gut. Nate Starks and Bola Olorunfunmi, those are 2 guys who are solid and can knock guys back. They should be in those power run formations. And then, this last weekend against Stanford, Olorunfunmi, he not only looked really good as a up the gut runner, but he also broke a 23-yard run late in the game. Fortunately, it didn't result in any points on the board, but they have to just Kennedy Polamalu needs to understand what his running backs can do and use them in the proper situation. And lastly, Rosen, slowly improving. It's weird that he's not getting any points on the board. He's not getting the ball in the end zone, but he's throwing for 280 yards, 300 yards. It's insane that he's still getting this amount of production. He just has to find a way to finish it. So, just a few loose ends, and honestly, UCLA could be a very, very dangerous team. Now, if they don't, and maybe chemistry is just off somewhere, then it's going to be a long season.
Well, it sounds like if they catch some of those passes, then his 280 yards are going to turn into 320 or 350, and they're going to start scoring some more points.
Yeah.
So when I start
thinking about good things?
What's that, Mike?
Why can't we have good things?
You've got a lot of good things there. You're close. We talked about it a lot, Mike. You guys are close. You're close.
Yeah, it's close. That's what I try to tell everybody. Give it time. It's almost there.
I am waiting for this program to explode. You know that, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very intrigued by the UCLA football program. So you might be Tennessee of the West. So it might be coming. It might be ready to explode. When I think of Pac-12 rivalries, Arizona and UCLA doesn't come to mind, but they always play. They're in the same division. Can you guys give me any kind of a feel for, is there any bad blood between these teams? Any games that come to mind in the past? Does this series have any kind of unique feel to it, Shereen?
A ton. There's a ton.
Okay. I need to know about this thing.
On our side, well, we had a streaker once during it. We had a brawl in Arizona and Tucson on the field between the team. We had UCLA in the last game. I don't know if it was Coach Mora's decision, but he ran his team out at the same time that the Wildcats ran out. Thus, no booing of the Bruins when they came running out. I thought it was a classless move. I didn't understand what was going on. Everybody in the stands was upset about it. Like I said, they've taken out our quarterback a couple times. I mean, B.J. Denker, I think I remember him with a concussion in the days they didn't call it a concussion. And when they took out Anua Solomon, the rest of the game, went to pot at home. I was there watching it in, 10 rows up from the field. So also you got to keep in mind that both schools recruit from the same place. So kids have UCLA offers at the same time that they have Arizona offers. And they usually have USC, UCLA, Arizona, Oregon offers all at the same time. So they're playing against their former teammates and their former competitors in high school. They all know each other. So, yeah, I think it makes for, I wouldn't say a rivalry, but it's not, we don't go, I don't think the two teams meet and go, oh, yeah, it's not like Colorado. UCLA is definitely a team Arizona wants to beat. They just haven't been able to for the last 4 years.
What do you think, Mike? Yeah. Anything different about this one?
It's really interesting because Arizona and UCLA is the biggest basketball rivalry. So I think, excuse me, I think a little bit of that bleeds over to football. But, I mean, like Shereen says, it's not really a rivalry. It's more of a friendly rivalry until the game starts. and the taunting starts, and the oh you and us and we're better than you, you know, it's a good rivalry that has sparked you know, some, you know, a lot of emotions, and it's fun for the most part, and you know, luckily UCLA has been able to win. What are they on, a 4-game win streak right now?
Yes, yes.
They're, you know, it's weird how they've matched up over the last few years since Mora and Rich Rod have headed the program. You know, Arizona's been down a little bit, you know, last year, but those first 2 seasons were just, they were intense, and that, I think, brought out some emotion with the fans. So it's, you know, obviously, you know, sometimes you look at a schedule and like, oh, they're going to be, you know, not a cupcake, but they should be a win, or you know, they're a team that you kind of look past. But honestly, especially with the Pac-12, with the way the Pac-12 is, you can't overlook any team. And especially after losing to Stanford, UCLA is going to want to go out there and kick some, you know, Wildcat butt. And I'm sure that's the same for the Wildcats, because they just lost a really close one to Washington. So who wants to go on a 2-game losing streak? Neither of these teams. So it's going to be a really good fight. No matter what the talent is on either sides of the coaching, you know, there's going to be a lot of emotion, and that's good for this Pac-12 conference.
2 of the more recognizable coaches in college football, Rich Rodriguez, he's raised the level at Arizona, and Jim Mora, Mike and I have talked about it a number of times, has definitely raised the standard there at UCLA, toughened up the program, toughened up the team, and now Bruins fans just waiting to get that elite, meaningful win to break them into another Pac-12 championship game. Neither of these teams have been able to win the Pac-12. Both have made a championship game and ran into the likes of Stanford for UCLA, and for Arizona, it's been the Oregon Ducks. But it's a very competitive South Division. These are 2 of the teams that are going to be in the mix, we would expect, with USC winning at 5-3. So you don't have to have a great record, because usually everybody beats up on everybody. 5-3 did it last year. So both these teams with 0-1 records definitely still in the hunt. But this is a huge game with Arizona and UCLA. So we got Shereen Rayan from Zona Zealots, and also Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin helping us break it down. All right, you two, we appreciate it.
You're welcome. Go
Thanks,
Cats!
Mark.